Okay, so get this. Thanksgiving dinner, family, you know, the whole bit. Turkey, all that.
Mm.
But then, bam, gunshot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. A 71-year-old grandfather is dead because of, get this, loud music.
Really?
Yep. Neighbor, argument, things escalated. Down in Florida.
Yeah.
And it's like one of those things, right? You hear about these crazy crimes, and you're like, no way. Could never happen to me. But
Right,
it
right.
makes you think.
It does, yeah. It's like Thanksgiving, you think of warmth and family, and then this jarring thing happens.
Exactly. And like, we've all been annoyed by loud music, haven't we? I mean, a neighbor's party or something.
Oh, for sure.
But for it to turn deadly,
Yeah, that's a whole other level.
it is. It really makes you wonder, what goes through someone's mind to react like that?
Right, like what's going on there? Stress, I don't know, mental health, something else.
And then, guns.
Yeah.
Easy access to firearms.
That adds a whole other layer to it.
Totally.
Yeah.
And the victim's wife, she talked about it, and it's just like chilling.
Oh, I bet.
So the neighbor comes up to complain, they argue, and then boom, shot.
Oh my gosh.
And then he even threatened the wife, said he'd shoot her too if she didn't shut up.
Jeez. That's really scary. And it makes you think about anger, right? And how we handle conflict.
Totally. And maybe even like societal issues. We don't know the whole story, but
Right, but there's got to be something deeper going on there.
for sure. Okay. So let's shift gears a bit. This time, Illinois. An assisted living facility.
Okay.
You'd think, right? A place for older folks would be peaceful.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, not this time. A guy with a chainsaw.
The chainsaw.
Yep. Terrorizing residents. It's wild. And it just shows you, right, how vulnerable the elderly are.
Absolutely. And it makes you question the security at these places.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, this guy, they don't even know his name yet, but he's outside cutting a tree,
Mhm.
and somehow he ends up in the lobby with a chainsaw, threatening people.
Wow.
Yeah. Thankfully, police got there fast, tried to calm him down, even used a taser.
Did it work?
Nope. Kept going, even tried to attack the officers.
Mhm.
It's like, you think of these situations and you hope it ends peacefully.
You do.
But this one, the police ended up shooting him.
Oh, wow.
It's
Uh-huh.
sad, I mean, it's sad for everyone involved.
Yeah.
Thankfully, no one else was seriously hurt.
That's good, at least.
Yeah.
But man, a chainsaw in an assisted living facility,
It makes you wonder,
it does.
like, was there a security failure? What are the workers that they usually have strict entry rules?
Yeah, like most places do.
So how did he get in with a chainsaw? Definitely something that needs to be looked into.
Absolutely.
Okay. So let's move on to something completely different. You remember the Brian Koberger case, right? The Idaho student murders.
Yeah, for sure.
So there have been some pretty big developments lately.
Oh, really? Like what?
Well, Koberger's lawyers, they're really fighting back, trying to throw out evidence, and they want to suppress statements he made when they arrested him.
Trying to make sure everything was done by the book, I guess.
Exactly. And because of all the media attention, they actually got the trial moved.
Interesting.
Yeah. So let's break it down a bit. They're saying, some of the evidence, like Koberger's DNA, warrants for his car, phone records, all that, they're saying it wasn't collected properly.
Ah, okay. So they're going after what is it, the fruit of the poisonous trees?
That's the one. Like, if they got the evidence illegally, then anything they got from that evidence is no good in court.
Makes sense.
And about the statements he made, his lawyers say his rights weren't read to him before he talked.
So they're saying he didn't get his Miranda rights.
Yep. And if that's true, it could really hurt the prosecution's case.
Could it?
Yeah, because he has the right not to incriminate himself.
What that meant, right.
Right. So if they didn't read him his rights, his lawyers can say he was pressured, and then his statements can't be used.
Oh, wow. So it's a real legal battle then.
It is. And then there's the media. It's been everywhere.
Yeah, it's a huge case.
Huge. So his lawyers said that all the attention would make it impossible to have a fair trial in Moscow, Idaho.
Okay.
So they moved the trial to Boise. It's like 300 miles away.
Wow.
Yeah. They do that sometimes in big cases like this, to make sure the jury hasn't already made up their minds.
Yeah, to try and find people who haven't heard everything and formed an opinion already.
Right, exactly. And just this week, something else happened. Koberger's lawyers want to seal a memo, keep it secret.
What's in the memo?
They're not saying, but they claim it's got info that could put people in danger if it got out.
Okay, so more intrigue, more mystery.
Totally. And it just shows you how this case is not just about the crime. It's about all these legal strategies, too.
Yeah, Yeah, like a game of chess almost.
It is. We'll have to wait and see how it all plays out in court. Speaking of mysteries, remember Hana Kobayashi?
Hmm.
She disappeared a while back in L.A.
Yeah, I remember that. She went missing, right?
Right. Missed her connecting flight to New York. Seemed like she just vanished. And before she disappeared, she sent some weird texts,
What do you mean weird?
like talking about spiritual awakenings and identity theft, feeling used. Her family was really worried, thought something bad happened.
So they suspected foul play.
Yeah, they did. And it's just so sad. Her father, he was so heartbroken, searching for her, he actually took his own life in L.A.
Oh, gosh. That's just awful.
It is. It really shows you the toll these cases take, you know?
Absolutely. The families, the not knowing, it's just unbearable.
Totally. But then, get this. The police said they have footage showing Hannah crossing into Mexico,
Really? When?
like a day after her phone last pinged at LAX.
Mm.
And she seems fine, like she's alone, has her luggage, no signs of trouble.
So maybe she went willingly.
That's what the police are saying. They don't think there was a crime or anything.
Okay, so that changes things. It could be so many things then. Mental health, maybe she wanted to get away from something. Or even, some people were talking about those spiritual texts she sent.
Yeah. And that whole twin flame thing she was into.
Yeah.
What's that all about anyway?
It's complicated, but basically it's this idea that two souls are meant to be together. There are whole communities built around it. And sometimes people get really caught up in it, make big life changes.
So maybe she went to Mexico for something like that. It's wild to think about.
It is, but without hearing from her directly, we can only guess.
True. But her family, they just want her to be safe. They're asking her to contact them, or the U.S. Embassy, just to let them know she's okay.
Yeah.
And they're asking people to stop speculating. They're trying to deal with all this. And on top of it, they lost Hannah's father. It's just a terrible situation.
It really is. And it shows how these missing person cases, they're never simple. You have to look at everything, think about the person's state of mind, all of it.
You're so right. Sometimes the answers aren't clear-cut.
Definitely not.
Okay. So let's talk about a case that shows just how devastating domestic violence can be. This one's from the UK. This guy, he gets life in prison for attacking his girlfriend.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's bad. They were arguing. He was furious. And he poured gasoline on her and set her on fire.
Oh, my God.
I know. Horrible. And she was a mother of 4. Can you imagine?
I can't. Poor woman. And her kids.
It's just awful. She had burns on like 90% of her body.
90%.
90%. And she lived for 2 years after that. In pain, in hospitals, care homes. Finally, she got pneumonia, and it was just too much.
I don't even have words. And the pain she must have been in all that time.
And the emotional toll on her family. Her daughter spoke in court. She said her mom would never get to hold her first grandchild.
Oh, my God. That's just heartbreaking.
It is. And her daughter talked about how much her mom suffered. Domestic violence, it doesn't just affect the victim, it ripples out to everyone.
It does. And it can last for generations.
So this guy, he was first sentenced to 18 years for, really hurting her. But then, after she died, they changed it to murder.
So life in prison now.
Yep, he has to serve at least 23 years before he can even ask to get out.
Well, I guess that's some justice, but nothing can bring her back.
No, it can't. In this case, it really makes you think about those warning signs, and how important it is to get help before things escalate like this.
Absolutely. If you're in a situation like that, please reach out. There are people who can help.
Exactly. You don't have to suffer alone. Okay, so one more case before we move on. This one is about drunk driving.
Okay.
And it's a reminder that choices have consequences, big ones. This woman in South Carolina, she was sentenced to 25 years.
For drunk driving.
Yeah. She hit and killed a bride on her wedding day.
Oh, no. That's terrible.
It's just tragic. They were leaving their reception in a golf cart, just starting their lives together. And then she hit them.
How awful.
The bride, she was still in her wedding dress,
Yeah.
died instantly.
Mm.
And the groom, he had a brain injury, broken bones.
So he doesn't even remember his wedding day?
Nope. And he's dealing with losing his wife. It's just unimaginable.
It is. And it all comes back to that one decision, getting behind the wheel after drinking.
Exactly. The woman who hit them, she admitted she'd been drinking a lot. She was going 65 in a 25 zone. And her blood alcohol level, it was 3 times the legal limit.
3 times. Jeez.
It just shows you how reckless it is.
Yeah.
And the impact it has, not just on the victims, but on the person who made that choice too.
Yeah, she's going to be in prison for a long time. And rightly so, but still.
It's a reminder for all of us, Don't drink and drive. Call a cab. Use a ride-sharing service. Have a designated driver. There are always options.
There are. And it's not worth the risk.
Not at all.
It's a tragedy all around. And the families, they're the ones left to pick up the pieces. It's just so sad.
It is. And it's preventable. That's what makes it even harder, I think.
I agree.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today. Heavy stuff.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it makes you think, like, what are the consequences of our choices?
Absolutely. And in that DUI case, the victim's father, he gave a really powerful statement in court. It turns out he had been hit by a drunk driver when he was a kid.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he said he'd finally forgiven that driver, after all those years. But then, when his daughter was killed, all those feelings of anger and hatred came back.
That's got to be tough to deal with all that again after so long.
I can't even imagine. It really shows the emotional depth of these cases. It's not just the law, it's the human side.
Totally. Shattered lives, families trying to cope.
And the groom, he talked about how his last memory of his wife was her saying she never wanted the night to end.
Oh, man.
They were so happy, starting their lives together, and then, in a second, it's all gone.
It makes you realize how precious life is, how quickly things can change.
It really does. And it makes you want to cherish every moment. These cases, they're tough to talk about, but they remind us to be grateful, to make good choices, and to be there for each other.
Couldn't agree more. Support is so important, especially when things get rough.
So true. Before we move on, I wanted to touch on the Hana Kobayashi case again. It's really sparked a lot of discussion, online especially.
Yeah, it's one of those cases that gets people talking, trying to figure it out.
And there are a lot of theories out there. I mean, she was talking about spiritual stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that twin flame thing. So some people think maybe she disappeared on purpose, like as part of some journey or to join a group or something.
It's possible. We talked about how influential that twin flame idea can be, and people do make big changes in their lives because of their beliefs.
Right. But we don't know for sure. And then there's that GoFundMe.
The one to help find her.
Yeah, they raised like $50,000. And now that it looks like she might have left willingly, people are wondering what happens to that money.
Good question.
Some people say it should go to the police for the investigation.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
But others say it should go back to the people who donated.
That's tough. I mean, it was set up with good intentions, right?
Totally. When they thought she was in danger. But now, things are different.
Yeah. It's up to the people who organize it to figure out what to do. Maybe they should talk to a lawyer or get advice from GoFundMe.
Yeah, for sure. It's a reminder that even when you try to do the right thing, unexpected stuff can happen.
That's life, right? Full of twists and turns.
It is. And the cases we've talked about today, they show just a small piece of all the challenges and tragedies that people face.
It's important to remember that.
We have to be empathetic, think critically, try to understand different perspectives.
I agree.
Because behind every headline, every court case, every missing person report, there are real people, real lives.
You're right. It's easy to forget that sometimes.
We can get caught up in the details, the legal stuff, but we can't lose sight of the human element.
Who care? These are real people with hopes and dreams, and they're vulnerable.
And that's why these conversations matter.
They do.
We need to talk about these issues, learn from them, support each other.
Absolutely. It can be uncomfortable, but it's necessary.
You said it perfectly. It makes us confront reality, challenge what we think we know, and try to make the world a little better, a little more understanding.
That's the goal.
It is. And, as our listeners think about these cases, I hope they'll reach out to someone they care about, offer support.
Yeah.
Just be there.
That's a great idea.
Sometimes the smallest things make the biggest difference.
That's a good point. And speaking of reaching out, don't forget to connect with us on social media. We love hearing your thoughts on the cases, getting those discussions going.
It's always interesting to see different perspectives, what people pick up on.
For sure. Your comments, your questions, they all add something to these deep dives.
Absolutely. It's a community, right?
Yeah.
We're all in this together.
Exactly. So keep them coming.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we sign off, I got to give you a little taste of what's coming next time. Get ready for some serious drama. We're talking billionaires, murder, financial schemes, the whole 9 yards.
Ooh, sounds juicy.
It is. It's like a classic mystery, right? Money, power, betrayal. And then someone ends up dead.
The stakes are high. High indeed. We're going to be digging into all sorts of crazy stuff. Relationships, motives, the world of high finance. It's a wild one. So make sure you're subscribed to The Deep Dive. Wouldn't want you to miss it.
Definitely not. Can't wait to unravel this one.
We'll be back soon with another episode, ready to challenge those assumptions and get you thinking. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe.
And remember, there's always more to discover, more to learn, and more to talk about. So keep those brains working and join us next time for another deep dive.
See you then.